Get your rub on with Addicted to the Q.
Hello, world. This is Brad with Addicted to the Q, and I'm here with Lyndal. How are you doing tonight?
Brad, I'm doing tremendous. Thanks for having me on your show. It's a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming on. So introduce yourself and tell us your team name.
Lyndal Scranton, Tailgate Guys BBQ, also a podcast of the same name.
So where did the name come from?
The name came from our original name of our radio show which I started in 2016, the Tailgate Guys BBQ show on local radio. And once we started doing a few competitions that year, just used the same name. Figured it'd be a great way to maybe market the show and cross promote a little bit.
So do you compete alone, or who all is on your team?
In the early days, my show co-host Steve Kaler and I split the cooking duties. He did the pork and the chicken, and I did the ribs and the brisket for a couple of years. The last 4 years, Steve's kind of dialed back his competition, and my wife and my son have joined me, and we're the cooking team now. With a few exceptions, we had some people that would come and do the chicken for us, but in 2021 we decided to take ownership of all four meats. Figured it was time that if we were going to do it, we would do it as a family team and do everything, and either take the glory or take the hits.
Doesn't Steve do SCA cooks, or is he kind of retired from that too?
Steve has also pretty well retired from that as well. He was really good at SCA. He kind of focused in on that. He won his golden ticket, I want to say in 2018, and he was really on a good path. But he had a few health issues, made his mobility a little difficult. So he's now kind of the backyard expert, so to speak, on the podcast, and kind of speaks to the cooking in the backyard portion of things.
That's awesome. So what got you started in the competition barbecue?
Well, I guess like many of us who have, it was the groundbreaking television show Barbecue Pitmasters back in the early 2010s. Always dialed that show up and wondered what if I ever had a chance to compete. It looked like so much fun what those guys were doing. Unfortunately, I was a sports reporter for many years, and we always work weekends in the newspaper business doing sports, and they don't have too many barbecue comps on Mondays, which was my constant day off. So really didn't have a chance to compete until the paper I worked for was a corporate sponsor of a big local event here, and they had a cooking spot available that they weren't using. So I finally got to compete, and that's kind of what set the hook.
Was that Rockin' Ribs, or what was that?
It was the Rockin' Ribs, which began in about 2000 and was the same name until 2020. And it was 2015. I got that chance to cook in Rockin' Ribs, knowing absolutely nothing about the what went into competition barbecue, and we cooked under the name Dr. L and the Meatheads at that time, and thanks to some great guys out of the Kansas City area called McGuire University Culinary Institute, which is actually a fictional university. It's kind of a long story how they came about that name, but we happened to sit by them at the cooks meeting, and they took a liking to us because they found out we were a first-time cook team, and they really gave us a lot of guidance that weekend. And I think we wound up finishing 54th out of 67 teams, and thought that was a great accomplishment to not finish last. So we were hooked at that after that, and we didn't cook anymore that year, but soon thereafter, my job changed, and I had a chance to start cooking more.
Well, that answers that question about when you got started. So who is your biggest mentor in barbecue?
There's a fellow out of St. Louis named Terry Black. He originated the Super Smokers barbecue chain in St. Louis. He was Memphis MA world champ in, I think, 2000 or 2001. But Terry and I became mutual friends. We share interests of sports and barbecue. I met him through some sporting events that he was helping do stats for the television crew at the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament in St. Louis. So we became good friends, and he even came out of retirement to help me cook a couple of times at the Rockin' Ribs. He came down and did the whole hog category for our team. And then I got to go to Memphis in 2019 with him as he headed up a team that did Memphis in May and cooked pork shoulder down there. So I got to see the insides of how Memphis in May worked. And Terry was alongside, and just no more loyal friend and good guy than Terry.
I've heard that is quite the contest.
It's an unbelievable experience. Memphis in May and the American Royal are I think, obviously the two biggest contests in the world. One's probably the Indy 500, and one is the Daytona 500. They're so huge in their own ways, but they're also different. So it's kind of hard to explain unless you experience them. But Memphis is unbelievable down on the riverbanks, especially.
Yeah, I've heard you got to have deep pockets to cook that one, though.
Yeah, even more so now. I think going forward, it's getting even more expensive. But yeah, absolutely, you have to have some serious financial backing to go to Memphis.
Because don't you have to build your own cook shack, your own flooring, your own setup there? It's kind of different, not like the Royal where you just pull a camper in.
Yeah, I mean, different teams do it different ways. You'll see some teams build 3-story structures. Some teams will. The one I was on, we just had the ground level. But presentation is such a big thing. A lot of teams really fancy it up, and some teams there go just strictly to party. But it's quite a festival, I would call it, at Memphis in May. And you can spend some serious money, and a lot of teams do.
I bet the on-site presentation's a whole different world too.
Yeah, it's quite the dog and pony show down there. It's it definitely can get deep in that presentation area when those judges come in, and you have to really schmooze them. And Terry's really good at that. I know. Well, you have to be good at that to have any chance to win. That's definitely it's fun to see. It's fun to see those guys do their on-site presentations and what all goes into it.
So what's the biggest competition you've cooked in?
Biggest would have to be the American Royal. We've done the last two. I went to the American Royal as a spectator a couple of times prior to that, and it was always a goal to hopefully cook in it. But I was way overwhelmed the first time I went as a spectator. But I went and helped some guys. The wood hook barbecue team out of Springfield, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
I hung out with those guys, Wes, and those guys in 2019, and that really helped me out as far as getting to understand all the ins and outs of how that contest operates. So we took our team there for the first time as Tailgate Guys in 2021, and went back in 22, and hopefully we can do it a few more times.
How'd your cook go last year?
2022 didn't score as well as 21. In 21, we had a 12th place chicken. We cooked good chicken and got lucky with the judges, which is a big part of that in such a big contest. I think we finished 150th overall that year out of 467 teams. And in 2022, we were still in the top half of the field, but nowhere close. Everything was consistent. We were unfortunately consistently between 200 and 240 in a 500 plus team field.
Chicken's been your strongest category this year, hasn't it? You had a 180 in chicken.
We the last about a year and a half, we've been really fortunate in chicken, which that was always the category that spooked me, and I tried to bring people in to help us on chicken. And finally, early in the 2021 season, decided to just take it on myself and use the Barbecue League Tell All Chicken video. The 913 Barbecue out of Kansas City has a tremendous video. I followed that just to the T almost, and practiced chicken, I want to say 7 Fridays in a row here at home. And we hit on, I think we had chicken calls in 4 of our last 5 contests in 2021, and then 5 or 6 out of 10 this year, including the 180. So yeah, we're really confident. That's the one category that I'm really happy with now. And it's ironic because I used to dislike and even be intimidated by that chicken for so long.
Do you cook thighs or legs?
Do thighs. I actually outsmarted myself a bit early in the 2022 season. In our opener, we did a doubleheader at St. Robert, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Did thighs the first day and finished, I think, 12th. Decided to get outsmart myself on the second day and did chicken wings, because I didn't feel like preparing chicken thighs 2 days in a row, and the wings finished way down the list. And I think that wound up costing us maybe a top 10 in the overall chicken category for a 10 contests or less. We finished 12th, just outside the top 10, and the wings just killed us that day. So I'd say stick to your strength would be the mantra to take out of that.
Is that how many contests you generally cook a year? About 10?
This was a career high 10 this year. We normally will do probably 6 to 8. This year we branched out and did 10. 3 of them were doubles. So if you're a glutton for punishment, do a few doubles, and that'll test your endurance. That's for sure.
Oh, I bet one's enough work.
Absolutely.
That's why I always say I don't know if I'd ever chase points. Those contests are a lot of work that whole week leading up. I mean, I enjoy doing them, but I know if I did them like some teams and did them every weekend, it would just be work and not fun.
I have a lot of appreciation for those teams that can do it and then can excel at doing 30 to 40 a year. I honestly don't know how they pull that off physically, mentally, or financially, but kudos to them. 10's enough for me.
That third one's the biggest one. The financially part's the big one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's you have to have some deep pockets or some good sponsors, or hopefully a little bit of both.
Yeah. So what is your biggest accomplishment in competition barbecue?
Probably the most memorable accomplishment was our third contest we ever did in Kimberling City, Missouri. It was in 2016. Just a great contest that is unfortunately no longer around, but 50 plus teams on hand, and a lot of the heavy hitters from the central part of the country were there. And that was our first call that we ever had in KCBS, finishing 10th place in brisket. And, it was like a 4-inch wooden trophy and a check for $75, but, you thought we won the lottery by doing that. I was so excited.
Yes.
But I guess in the bigger picture, the 12th place chicken at the American Royal in 2021 would probably be the one I'm most proud about.
I think I was at a contest. I think I judged the contest in Osceola, and I think you got first place pork at that one. I think that might have been your first place.
I believe you are right. We had a first place pork in 2019 in Kimberling City.
Okay.
But we did have a first place pork this past summer in Osceola.
That might have been it then.
We were all over the map. We had first place pork one day after being way down the list the other, and then we had first place ribs one day, and it was way down the list of the others. So we weren't able to coordinate our categories together to excel on the same day, unfortunately.
Do you like doubles to make adjustments, or would you rather cook a single?
Well, I do like the doubles from the standpoint of making adjustments. However, I tell you, the older I get, the more difficult it is. You really pay for it. It takes me about 4 days to recover physically from a double. It's really a grind, especially in this heat we had this summer. You go to Osceola and it's 105 degrees and no wind at all. And thankfully, it wasn't a nice shaded campground, but you take the toll. But when you're limited at how many weekends you can get off from work and make that part of it happen, we tried to cook a few extra doubles this year just to capitalize on that so we could cook more contests total.
That's like the Royal. I want to cook the Royal one of these years, but just getting there Wednesday and staying till Sunday sounds like a long grind.
Yeah, we get up early on Thursday and make the 3-hour drive up there and get set up. It's amazing how many teams are already there on Wednesday, but it's nice when you get settled in on Thursday and get set up. Use Thursday and Friday as kind of your socializing days and make your rounds, then kind of start focusing in on what you need to do cooking wise for the weekend.
Yeah, of course I didn't stay for awards this year, but watch history get made. That was crazy.
Yeah, Grant Basileir.
Yeah, that was insane.
What a performance winning both ends. I don't think many of us in the barbecue world knew who the guy was when the weekend began, and then he was a rock star by the time Sunday evening rolled around, and And what a great guy he was. Had him on the Tailgate Guys show that week after, and what a humble guy. And look forward to seeing what he can do if he gets out and cooks a few more times next year.
That is exactly like somebody said. What do you do after that? Do you once you've won back-to-back world title? Like what do you do in barbecue after that?
Yeah, I told him it was a little bit like a golfer going out and winning the U.S. Open on one weekend, and then following up and winning the Masters the next. You are on top of the world, and he's a talented guy. Though he didn't cook often. He had some other top fives I know throughout the year. So he's a guy to watch out for and can stay up with next year.
That is for sure. So, what made you start the Tailgate Guys BBQ podcast?
Well, I guess I've always been a radio nerd, even though I was a print journalist for 36 years. I always loved talk radio, specifically sports talk radio. I've always thought would be cool to have a show, and I'd been on guest on some shows to talk sports over the years. So when I got out of the newspaper business, I had a friend who was in sales and at one of the local radio stations. So I kind of pitched him a crazy idea. I said, what would you think about a sports and / barbecue show where we talk about both of those things? And this was going to be locally aimed, talk local sports, talk some local barbecue people, and he thought it was an idea worth pursuing. So fortunately, we were able to put together enough sponsorship for 2016, and we went out and did 50 editions of the show on Saturday mornings live that year, and ended up morphing it into more barbecue than sports pretty soon. Like halfway through the year, we were talking probably 90% barbecue and 10% sports as we lined up all these awesome guests from the barbecue world.
So when did you make the jump from Saturday morning to the weekly digital podcast?
Yeah, we did the 3 seasons on local radio, and it's honestly it takes a lot of money in the radio world to get that airtime, and podcast wise, it's going to be a lot cheaper. You can invest a little bit up front in your equipment and so forth, and learn some production value. And we were able to take it to podcast and give it a shot in 2019, and the show grew, and gradually it didn't take off immediately, but it started gradually building a base and being heard and downloaded by more people across the country and internationally. And it's wound up to where we were able to have some tremendous guests, and it's been fun for me, and hopefully the listeners. As it continues to grow, and podcasting is just like your show and many others. Target marketing audience. That's kind of the thing. Local radio is not what it used to be, and you can target your audience and the people who want to hear about barbecue or whatever the subject may be. They can find us, and hopefully we can give them what they want to hear.
Plus, you can kind of watch it listen to it at your leisure, not at a certain time when you have to listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing how many people I've talked to who say they listen to the show as they're driving to a competition, or if they're out mowing their yard or things like that. The beauty of the podcast is you can do it live, but you don't have to. I mean, we record one segment on a Monday and the other on a Tuesday, and it'll come out on a Wednesday. So it's the versatility and flexibility that it gives you is really good as a show host.
I listen to it usually on my way to work or home from work, usually every week.
Yeah, well, we usually try to have the shows out either on Tuesday evenings or Wednesday afternoons. But the main thing I think, from what I've tried to learn about podcasting, is try to be consistent with your audience so they can know when to expect the show, each week, whether it be a certain day or a certain time.
You've had some heavy hitters on the show too. You just had a big one this past week with Tuffy.
Yeah, one of my favorites, if not my favorite guest, Tuffy Stone. He was one of the first big time guests that we landed on radio back in 2016. And they don't get any better than Tuffy. I mean, the guy's a walking, talking book of knowledge on open fire cooking, and what a humble guy. Anyone who's met him knows it. It's
Yes.
legitimate. The guy is just as good as it gets. And tell you, I'd encourage anybody who sees him at an event, whether it's Memphis in May or the American Royal, go up and introduce yourself and talk to the guy. It's an unforgettable experience. He's one of the big names, the big personalities in our food sport, and he's the real deal. He's just a great guy.
I met him 2018, first year I ever judged the Royal, and I just walked by and just said hi and introduced myself and told him I was a judge. And I'm with a barbecue nobody. I still am. And he gave me the time of day and talked to me, and I was like, wow.
Yeah,
he didn't have to do that at all.
Yeah. Most of these big name folks are very similar and very humble. Myron Mixon, for instance, he has that persona from television where he's Mr. Mean and Mr. The Man in Black and so on and so forth. But he's always been nothing but good to me and to friends of mine who I know who have gone up and introduced themselves. I was intimidated by some of these people when I first got into the show and talking to them. I've interviewed a lot of big name sports personalities over the years and thought nothing of that. But I was more intimidated by these barbecue personalities at first. But it's the same way, it's the same way as a sports figure. They're just people like us, and they share a common love for what they do with what we're doing. And as long as you show that you're prepared and genuine about what you're doing, I think they're more than happy to treat you with that same respect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite barbecue restaurant that you have been to?
Well, ironically, the more I've been cooking over the last few years, the less I go out to barbecue restaurants. However, whenever I make it into the Kansas City area, Joe Pierce's Slaps is a must visit for me. Love what Joe's doing in Kansas City. Locally, Getting Basted is a great place that we have in the Southwest Missouri area with 3 locations. And Drew McNatt, Hogtied Barbecue. Drew was a longtime competitor on the circuit and a big winner for many years. He retired from competition a few years ago, and now these restaurants he's opened in the Southwest Missouri area has 2 locations. It's Hogtied Barbecue. That's another really good place to look for if you're down in this area.
I just got a bottle of his sauce. It's pretty good.
It is good. It's good stuff. I know he just opened a new restaurant earlier this year at Willard, Missouri, a little closer to Springfield. But Drew's a great guy, and I'll tell you what, I focus more on the meats than I do on the sides when I go to a barbecue restaurant. But his sweet potato fries are just outstanding there at Hogtied if you ever get a chance.
Getting Basted is the highlight of our Branson trip. Whenever we go to Branson, we almost always stop at Getting Basted. Yeah, and they're not a sponsor or anything, but I have to give a plug to his other restaurant, the Downing Street Poorhouse in Hollister, which is near Branson. It has some barbecue items on it, but the Reuben sandwich there is probably the best. If you like Reuben sandwiches or corned beef, that's some of the best in the world right there. Told my wife the next time we go there, I want to try that one. We've never been to that Downing Street Poorhouse, but we want to try it.
Yep, highly recommend it if you get a chance.
So do you have any advice for any newcomers to the backyard cooking or competition barbecue?
Well, I would say, first of all, join the barbecue league. No better $100 investment that you can ever make than join that online instructional forum. So much good information there through videos that you can watch at your convenience. Also, a lot of fun behind the scenes look at Brad and Tim as they compete. You kind of get a sense for what goes on, what they're doing during their cooks. I also would say if you're serious about getting into it, take a class. And I know you've recommended him before, as have many, but Eric Burkhart has about as good a class as you can ever take for the value. $300. I know he has one coming up again after the first of the year. That was my first barbecue class, and it helped immensely. So affordable, and he's such a knowledgeable guy. I mean, we're talking about a former American Royal Open World champ. and especially if you cook on drums,
Yes.
he knows the stuff, and he makes it very very relatable to you as a student. So you check Eric out, Uncle Bob's BBQ. I suspect he has that class filling up fairly quickly. He limits it so he can give you a lot of individualized instruction.
Yes.
So I would recommend those two things. Probably those I've had both, and they've helped me out immensely.
The nice thing about Eric's class too is your spouse can go for free if she wants to.
Absolutely. And if you're a family cooking team like my wife and I am, and you see a lot of spouses are out there now cooking together, and I think that's a great thing to do if you can share that common interest. And my wife does so much trimming, and that's where she learned a lot of things from Eric's class. And we're going to go to a class in Kansas City next week for Richard Fergalicious Barbecue's putting on. I look forward to finding out some more knowledge from Richard. And I tell you, you're always looking for an edge in this thing. If you're into it and investing in it and spending your hard-earned money to compete, it's a good investment to put some back into it and take a class.
Exactly. Though my wife says whenever she'll ask me if I'm trimming something or doing something, she's like, "How did Eric do it?" And I said, "I don't quite remember." And she said, "I should have went then too." I said,
Absolutely. Yeah. My wife does the big meat. She does the pork and the brisket, which are arguably the two hardest. Although I do the chicken thighs, and they're the most tedious of all. I've got to where I can trim 16 of them in an hour and 15 minutes now, which is about as fast as I can go and do them right.
wow.
You find you a good music playlist, sit down, do those thighs. That's kind of the way I operate that part of it.
It used to take me 2.5 hours. I just recently switched to legs, but it used to take me 2.5 hours to trim 16 chicken thighs.
Yeah, I contemplated legs and did some test cooks, and I just couldn't get them right. And I just told myself that I need to stick with what my strengths are. I've figured out how to do thighs where they can score fairly well. So I'm just going to have to carve out the time and trim them. And so I know how to cook them. It's just a matter of getting them trimmed right.
Kind of like your drum. What you cook is what you cook on is the best thing you can master.
Yeah, that's so many of these top level guests that I've talked to over the years. Know your smoker, operate your smoker, learn it, and play to your strengths. Those are the key basics when you boil it down.
Heck, a guy won on one drum this year, so you can't argue about that.
Oh yeah, you see the drums, and there are a lot of good drum companies out there. I have 3 Gateways. I have a Hunsaker. It's kind of been through the wars. It's about beat to death. I have a couple of Gray Wolf drums. So I'll tell you that they all cook a little bit different, but they all do a great job. It's I don't really pick a favorite. Everybody's always saying, "What's your favorite drum?" Well, just learn them all and learn what they each do and play off of that. I don't get into this drum's better than the other, and just learn them all and learn how to operate each one of them.
Yeah, that's what I have 3 drums and a Weber Smoky Mountain, and they all cook different. But they're all 3 homemade drums, but they all cook completely different. But I learned the quirks out of all of them.
Yep, absolutely. Just learn what they can do and learn what they do in different kinds of weather as well.
Yes, that is true. Weather definitely plays a factor on it.
Yep.
So if you could change one thing about Competition Barbecue or KCBS, what would it be?
Well, obviously, I think it's the answer most of us would give is the affordability of it. Now, I don't know that there's any solution to that. If we had a magic wand and it could say we can make this cost half as much as it does now, we'd do it. But I think that's kind of where we are. It's going to cost what it's going to cost, and you hopefully can drum up enough disposable income or sponsorship to help get it done. The thing that's maybe more doable is the judging aspect. And when I say judging, I'm not out to call out judges, but let's face it, there are some rogue judges out there who just refuse to give 9s. Some of them even refuse to give 8s. I think one thing I like that KCBS has done is this online judging program, the J Cup. I took the judging class a couple of years ago. I took the J Cup this past summer online, completed all 10 phases of it. I'm an absolute believer that they need to make that mandatory. If people want to continue to be eligible to judge, they need to go take that refresher course.
I completely agree. And there was believe it or not, there was a lot of judges at the Royal that hadn't taken that.
Well, that's hard to believe. And, it should make judging more enjoyable for them if they take that class. It's not hard. It doesn't take a lot of time. And I'm pretty sure that there's some things that they might have forgotten about the basic concepts of judging and how to do it if they took the original judging certification even 5 years ago. You've probably forgotten a little bit about some of the basics.
That, and I really think they need to require a comment card for a 7 or below. Those are my.
Well, absolutely for a 6 or below, I would say. And there have been 7s I've wondered about as well. But I've had a lot of 6s given to me that I walk away and I said, oh, that's okay. I probably deserved a 6, but I'd like to know, in their opinion, maybe where the flaw was so I can improve and move ahead.
I got a 6 on appearance and ribs one time, and I was floored. To me, a 6 in ribs looks like you just thrown it in the box. Like, I mean, I was blown away. But
well, I've only judged an actual KCBS comp once, but I was sitting by a judge who was commenting about the sloppiness of the garnish, and I swear when I took my judging certification, you're there to judge the meat.
You don't judge garnish. Nope.
Unless the garnish is an absolute mess, which what he was questioning was far from a mess. It looked fine to me. If you judge the meat, don't judge the garnish, and that's that thing that the J-Cup reinforces. And I think there's too much of that going on, and that's what drives judges crazy. You spend $1,000 to go out and cook on a weekend, and you face enough obstacles, and you have a judge or two who does that sort of stuff. It just really makes you want to. Sometimes it makes you want to question why you keep doing it. That's for sure.
Yes. Well, according to the rules, you only judge garnish if it's legal or not. That's the only time you judge garnish.
Correct. Yep.
Of course, I had a judge one time telling me that if they didn't put burnt ends in the box, that means they messed them up and they need to be scored down for not putting them in the box.
Yeah, only judge what's in the box. That's what you're told. And we go to great lengths to make our garnish, our kale look nice and even and neat, even though supposedly they're not supposed to judge that part of it. You know that they probably are. So, but yeah, when I judged, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt. If I'm thinking something's either a 7 or an 8, I'm going to give it an 8. If I'm torn between an 8 and a 9, I'm going to give it a 9.
Yep.
And who knows? Maybe the KCBS in the future should think about half points. I don't know.
Here's a question for you: do you think Team of the Year should count as a world championship?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think you should be called world champ if you're the KCBS Team of the Year. You've put the grind in to get the work done over an extended period of time. I guess there are different labels of world champion. Obviously, American Royal World Champion or the Jack World Champion. When you're champ of majors, you deserve that title. But Team of the Year, I think so.
I kind of agree because they worked their butt off all season and beat how many other. It's not just a one contest that you had the chance to go in, and I don't want to call it luck, but you can go in and win one contest and be a world champion. Team of the Year, you have to grind all year long, cook 30-some contests to get it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I totally agree. They're out there grinding and traveling, and especially in this day and age with as much money as it takes to get up and down the road, and in addition to your contest and your supplies and your meat cost, absolutely, they deserve to be called world champs.
So, do you have any barbecue goals that you want to accomplish?
Yes, no question. Number one priority, number one goal is to win a KCBS Green Championship before I finish up this thing at some point. We came close this year in Warsaw, Missouri, finished 6th overall. I had 2 first places that day in chicken and pork, less than about 5 points, I think 5.1 points behind the grand champion that day. But our brisket let us down, down in the 166 range. But we came out of that comp against some really good teams. I mean, we had Black Magic as the grand champ, Slaps was there, Heavy Smoke, Four Legs Up, Smoking Hills. There's some quality teams up there at the top of that list. But we came away after that. While I was disappointed, I now knew that we could. It was a reality. We could get a grand GC at some point. And it may not ever happen, but it's possible now, and just need to figure out how to cook more consistently. And if that brisket had been on that day, then we're celebrating a grand championship. But that's why they're tough to win, though. You have to do it all, put them all 4 together.
Yeah, that's what. When I did a contest in Ashland, I won chicken and I got 4th in ribs, and that cost me. I should have won the grand. I said I've never been happy and pissed off all of the same contest.
Man, I hear you. I was 2 first places categories that day. I should have been just flying high, but I was walking away feeling disgusted by letting the big one get away. Like the old trip to the fishing hole. You let the 10-pounder get off the hook, and that's kind of what we did that day in Warsaw.
So what does the future look like for your team and your podcast?
Well, I guess for both of them, we're kind of taking them a year at a time. Did 10 comps this year and in 22. Looking to maybe scale back a couple, do 6 to 8 next year. Depending on work schedules and finances and so forth. If things are going well, we might bump it up and make a late run at 10. I don't think we'll ever do more than 10, but still have that desire and that competitive fire to chase that first grand championship, and hopefully more good results. And this was a great year for us as far as improving our game. We've made a gradual build over the years of getting better every year, and hopefully that trend can continue. The podcast, same way. We just hope it keeps growing and gradually getting better. Don't want to be a flash in the pan. We had a slow, gradual build, and I think the momentum's good. People are listening all over the country and all over the world, so appreciate that. As long as the numbers keep improving and keep having fun with it, don't see it slowing down, and hopefully that will continue. And look forward to season 5 in 2023 and keeping it rolling and kind of combining those two things. I'd never want to go back to doing live radio on Saturday mornings, though. We tried to do a live radio show during a contest once, and that didn't go well. The show was on 11 to noon, so we're trying to prepare our chicken turn in while we're trying to do a live radio show. So I wouldn't recommend that to anybody, but hopefully the podcast will continue and doing well, and we'll keep cooking and blending both of those together and kind of talking about our experiences on the podcast and learning from our guests and applying that knowledge to the cooking.
So do you have any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, first off, they've been with us since the beginning on local radio. It's Blues Hog. Tim and Mark Bayless and the team at Blues Hog, they've been awesome to us. Also, the Barbecue Ninja, Craig from Royal Oak. They've been a sponsor of ours the last couple of years. Been proud to be a part of Team Royal Oak. I think Royal Oak teams have pretty much swept about every Team of the Year category all over the country this year, in KCBS and Florida and about everywhere else. But they've been great to us. Iowa Barbecue Store has been along with us the last couple of years. Richard Fergola, Fergalicious Barbecue. Kevin Green down at the butcher shop sends us some of the best briskets in the business. If we're not getting top 10s in brisket, it's not his fault, because that meat's absolutely gorgeous. So we thank them a whole lot for what he's done for us in the butcher shop. And we have a handful of local sponsors as well. Affordable Financial Services, a tax and business company locally, has been with us for the whole way. And gosh, I know there are others I'm probably forgetting, but a lot of good folks help us make this happen.
Well, Brian, do you have anything to add to it?
No, I'm looking at Uncle Bub's little class, but I don't know if my partner would shave his legs and put a bra on.
Well, that would liven things up even a little bit more. But yeah, that'd be good. I'd encourage anybody that can take their spouse to that class.
Yeah,
get it done. You can't beat it. $300 for a couple.
I got the weird one. I'm the meat lover. She's a vegetarian, so I have to have a guy that helps me on the team. So I'm like, he can wear a bra and go.
Well, you might try to cut some sort of deal with Uncle Bub there and see if he'll give you a little extra discount if he'll wear a dress, or maybe he doesn't want him in a dress. That might be something too.
He offered to let me go back in March and help him, and I might take him up on that. Yeah,
that's another thing he does. If you've been to his class before, he says always come on back for a refresher, and you probably pitch in and help out a little bit. And that's an awesome thing as well. But he's one of the best guys in the business, and
you won't hardly find anybody better than him.
No, nobody better. I'll tell you, he's given a lot of knowledge to a lot of people, and I'll tell you, it's for those of us who are trying to get better, there are a lot of good options out there, and starting with him and going to so many other classes, and as well as the barbecue league online options. So if you're serious about this game, get out and get some education from somebody.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. Brian, you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, we also want to thank our sponsors, King Louie's Meat Apostle and Inkbird. Thanks for coming on, Lyndal.
Hey, guys. Great visiting with you, and I sure do appreciate it. And keep up what you're doing. You're doing a great job with the show, and keep growing it, man.
Perfect.
Thank you
so much.
Thanks.